Alright, so this is attempt number 2 at making a VOD review for Dan for my solo arena win from this morning. The first time I went too long and I couldn't actually fit the whole game in the recording. So there's the trajectory of the bus. I'm going to 3 little broken houses off the edge of the map. And from this POI, I'm going to be able to rotate up the hill to where those other arrows are. That's where the henchmen are. And with the henchmen, I'm guaranteed a heavy sniper, also a special chest that can be opened via access with a henchman. So here I am just matting up these houses. I'm going to speed things up for the sake of time. You can't see my loadout, but I end up getting a couple bigs, which I take. I end up having 6 minis to carry. I end up getting a gold scar, which is a really good way to set up the rest of my game. And in arenas, you're limited to 500 materials of each kind, but you can harvest more quickly. So as you can see, I'm hitting bathtubs. I'm hitting, like, there's a couple cars that I end up hitting, just to try to make sure I have a mixture of everything. This is a kind of like quiet POI where you don't really run into any trouble. And the rotations aren't bad. However, the storm was not, it wasn't the worst, but it also wasn't great. And I took a little too long leaving, as you'll soon see. Here's the scar. I could have taken minis and bigs, but then I would have needed to carry the extra big, and I didn't have the space for it. And I only get into one fight in this game, so it really is like a looting and rotation simulator, I guess you'd say. Here you see I'm building with brick because I know I have extra brick available, so I expand out my builds with brick. And I skip the third house as the storm starts moving, but I'm gonna get greedy and I'm gonna go to what we call AFK, which the game calls, I think, Shadow Henchman Outpost Charlie or something like that. Here's a good little find here, blue tack. I prefer the tack over the pump because I'm not super accurate with headshots, and the fire rate of the tack is better for me. Replay mode has some bugs here where it's going to show henchmen that aren't actually there, which is kind of funny. And I'm going to end up coming back for that medkit. Always leave one guy alive in order to get the special chest here. As you can see, it's not super useful, it's not the best chest. I didn't really have mats to upgrade. That guy's not there. I'm gonna go up to the roof and grab the heavy sniper. One extra chest. Now at this point I have no bandage, no any kind of healing items in my inventory, and I realize I'm probably screwed if I just try to run this one out. In all likelihood, even if I run a straight line, I'd probably lose 70 health, roughly. So what I do is I top myself off with the bandage before I grab the medkit. and then run like hell. Here again, I realize, oh, there's bandage, let me top off. Anything to buy time before I have to use the medkit, because of course bandage can't get you to 100, so you want to exit the storm with a medkit. I got lucky a couple times in this game that as I rotated through these POIs, there were some chests that hadn't been hit, even though there was evidence that somebody had been there. And again, more bandage to buy myself time. So this is the sort of thing to note if you do. I end up canceling this med kit because I realize I'm making a mistake. If you do find yourself in the scenario where you can stretch out your storm rotation with bandages, you don't want to carry the bandages, you want to carry the med kit, just use your bandage to buy you time to get to the med kit. So as you can see, there's only 16 people left at this point. I've spent the entire game in the storm, essentially. And again, I have a pretty long run. You can see I'm moving at exactly the speed of the storm. There's one guy in frenzy still, apparently. I didn't see him. Here's another missed chest that somebody should have hit and didn't. The thing about doing a late rotation like I'm doing is you could very easily have your game ruined by somebody else who's also late in rotation. So I'm curious where this guy is. He must be in the big building to my right still. Picking up a second medkit is very helpful because it means if there was a fight, I'd be able to potentially outlast the other guy. But it didn't come to pass and we went our separate ways. I got lucky that there was a launch pad, and notice I used it to launch up the high ground rather than launch forward to the next circle. That's sort of a taste level decision. It's whatever you think is more likely to extend your game. So would I rather be on low ground in the circle, or because I have 2 med kits, is it beneficial for me to go get up to high ground, take a little more storm damage to do it, but at least I know I'll have a better view of what's going on below me as the next circle pops up. And I kind of luck into this drop here. Notice there I started the med kit with 27 seconds, never cut it too close because it's gonna potentially screw you if you wait for 21 health and then the game doesn't register your med kit until a second later and suddenly you die by half a second. So at this point I popped the second med kit for 14 health because I'd rather have a big going into endgame. My loadout at this point is the gold scar, the blue tag, the purple heavy sniper, which I could use for sniping or for one-shotting people's builds, and then 6 minis and a big. Again, notice I'm running the narrower side of the circle. Shouldn't run into any traffic there. And I'm still on the narrower side of the map. So both of those things go into my favor in terms of not running into people on rotation. I'm basically in right now, and it looks like everybody else is on the other side of the circle relative to me. Otherwise they'd show up on the little circle there. The little lit up circle, I should say. So I actually get lucky again here in that there's 2 chests under the floor that somebody missed. It's another gold scar! Which in this case I didn't need, but I'm glad somebody else didn't have it. So here I have natural high ground. Like, I basically have cover in all directions. If somebody had been over there where I'm looking, that could have been a threat. I'm unlikely to get shot from low ground where I just came from, because why would someone be there? As you can see, I have pretty much open space around me. And see how everybody takes their time moving into the circle? Because it's not that aggressive a zone. Nobody wants to be the first one to like set up shop and call attention to themselves. There was somebody right near me, right down the hill from me, but they couldn't see me because I had natural cover. Incidentally, I also couldn't see them. Somebody is flying there. You can see the blue arrow moving in the bottom right, or was it green arrow, blue arrow, whatever. And they're ultimately going to see the person on low ground. There are only 3 left now. Because I'm on the short side of the circle again, it means that this storm line closes very slowly on me. I'm looking for an opportunity at a shot, but I'm not going to give myself away. I don't care if the other guy, you know, is the one who turns 3 players into 2 players in the lobby. I could not care less. So what I didn't realize was that this guy was already over in this box. I should have noticed by the way the loot changed. I thought it just fell, but he had actually heavy sniped into the box and then shotguns. As you can see in the mini map there, he's over there. I thought he was still over at his old build, but either way it doesn't really matter because I have natural high ground, so I can afford to be wrong more than he can on low ground. You see a couple times the storm kind of overlapped me, but you get 1 second grace period before you take damage. At this point, he starts to realize where I am because of all the building, and he only has 1 way to get up to me. He doesn't want to be on the low ground as the next moving circle comes. And as he's flying in, something funny happens, which you'll see later from his perspective. That second tack shot was huge for me. So I took 150 health from him, and he took 60 from me. And again, we'll look at his point of view and look at it in a little slower motion in a second. He doesn't know where I am on low ground right now. And I didn't put a wall next to me right there, but it was okay, because if he dropped down, I was going to see him as well as he'd see me. And I didn't want to have to deal with a wall being in my way. So there, I actually built, let's hop back for a second. Here, I know he's up high, he knows I'm down low. I built these 2 floors over me. Now I block myself off, and instead of going outside where he might have an angle on me, I go back inside directly under him, under my build, where I know he doesn't have any kind of angle to shoot me. So I edit through this. He has no idea where I am. And now I actually had thought about taking height, but I just tuck in here, and I'm hoping he's going to get nervous about the storm before I will. He'll drop down potentially, and I'll have shots on him. That's why I hug the build. Now I see he's building out. Now he's ready for a shotgun fight, but he goes to the sky, and then I have a gold scar. Missed a lot of shots, but it didn't matter because he was in the air and he couldn't take any shots. So that's my perspective. And now we eat a pizza in slow motion. So let's hop back a bit. Dear Epic, replay mode is the worst. Sincerely, me and everyone else who uses replay mode. Okay, so here's the other guy, the guy I killed at the end, who is about to make a big mistake here. He wins this fight, and then he's gonna end up doing the worst possible job of looting, of just deciding what to take away from the fights he wins. There's some kind of visual bugs here, but now you're seeing the drum gun, seeing a gold rocket launcher, and a gold AR. And his loadout is actually a gold burst rifle, a purple heavy sniper, I want to say, and I think he had either a gold tack or a purple tack was what he ended up with. But he's actually gonna leave behind the drum gun, the AR, and the rocket launcher. And like, okay, if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But you'll see when we actually get into the 1v1 that it does not serve him well what he took with him. He has no spray weapon. When you talk about a pump, that's a slow firing weapon. Talk about a burst, you can't spray with a burst. Very predictable spray, I should say. You can't improvise with a burst, basically. The other thing is his endgame strategy is pretty predictable. He seems to just want to sit in a box, which is fine, but you'll see he really doesn't have a vision of what he wants to do. Fourth place finisher dies to Storm, so 1v1v1. So that's just running around. He bases up in the circle, that's his strategy. And he, of course, fights the other guy who based up in the circle. Meanwhile, he's going to use his heavy sniper to break into the box, and then shotgun to win it. So that's the tack, and he got 4 shots off with the tack. And now he decides to quote-unquote upgrade from the blue tack to the purple pump. And I'm in the minority in thinking that a purple pump is not better than a blue tack. But you saw there, his blue tack just won the fight. The purple pump did not do very much damage, and that's going to be what happens in our 1v1 in a second. So as you can see, I'm still chilling on the hill. I didn't actually realize that he's over here in this build. So I go and creep over toward his other build. And he again just builds a little base, and I guess it's so that it's unpredictable which base he's in, but he didn't really achieve anything with this little box. It just made it so he had to move further with the storm. He edits out, and now he realizes I'm up on the hill building, and look at how much natural high ground I have. He has to launch over. And here's classic overthinking. He should shoot me in the back of the head right now, but instead he puts a floor. What are you doing? And then he edits through the floor, and where is he looking? He's looking at where I was, not where I am. I hit him for 79, he hit me for 60, and then I'm actually invisible when I jump off right there. Just want to show from my angle what that looked like. I have trouble locating people when they come in on launch pads. That was his opportunity to end the game, and he didn't do it. That lets me do this. I'm genuinely invisible from his point of view right here. There's no way he can shoot me. And if I had shot higher, that's actually like a perfect tack shot from that range to do 71. If I had shot higher, that would have been the game, just as he could have pumped me. So even in this type of fight, it is a 50-50. All you can do is all you can do. And now I drop down. Because I did so much damage to him, he's forced to sit and heal. I guess he had a couple bigs and he had a med kit on him. Has no idea where I am though. Takes more fall damage on the way down than I did. Thinks I'm there maybe. I'm not. And now look at how much health he loses to the storm. Cancels out the med kit essentially. And then he doesn't realize he can't land on the right. By the time he comes back to the left, he's too late. Now, if he had marked, if he had taken the time after he put the med kit, finished with the med kit, or before taking the med kit to just mark where the center of the next zone was going to go, he would have known where he could and couldn't launch to. He would have known that that's not in right there. And here, if he had planned on landing up here, he would have had natural high ground. He also could have had natural cover behind the rock. And here, when he's getting lasered, his instinct is to shoot back with a shotgun. And a pump's not going to do you any good from that range. Rather than step behind the rock and see if he could somehow reset the fight. So hopefully this has been somewhat educational. And yeah, it was not the most impressive gameplay in the world, but sometimes it's just doing the basic stuff and your opponent not doing the basic stuff. And quite frankly, if he had had a rocket launcher and a drum gun, I don't know if I could have won this game, but that is what it is.